unstoppable, 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 unstoppable.
Hello, everyone, and thank you again for joining us for Unstoppable podcast series. We are blessed to have Miss Sabina Luna on our podcast today. Hello, Sabina. How are you?
Me. Hi, I'm amazing. And thank you so much again, Megan, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, we are completely honored, and our viewers are just in for a treat to really hear about you and what you're doing in the world and how you came about doing what you did. So, everyone, if you do not know Sabina Luna, you're going to know her before the end of this podcast, which I have a feeling many of you do. So, let's just dig right in, Sabina, if you're okay with that. Can you kind of tell everybody a little bit about yourself for the ones that may have just been meeting you for the first time?
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Kazakhstan. It's a country in Central Asia. Um, in a middle class family, I am the oldest kid of the two. I have my younger brother, 2 years younger, and like I said, my dad, my mom, and my father was a policeman, and he was killed on the line of duty when I was 12. And it was very difficult time for our family. My mom had to work a lot to be able to put us through school, me and my brother. And it was kind of one of those, first of all, just to like a little background, Kazakhstan is the Muslim country. But my family, we were Christians. So in a Muslim country, plus my dad was very kind of like, you can call it old way. He was like, okay, let me work and you will take care of the kids.
Right.
So that's what it was. And my mom, she had two high, she had 2 degrees, but she kind of had to let it go, just raising us and, take us to school. Me and my brother, we did a bunch of stuff, music school, sports, which if you have kids, you know how much time it takes.
Yes, very much.
I professionally did gymnastics and I played piano, thinking that I'm going to go to conservatory. But basically, it's hours and hours of playing. It's everyday training in gymnastics. So it was very intense. And all of a sudden, when I was 12, my dad was gone and my mom now kind of like out of job, out of, years that were kind of gone, where, it was very difficult to find job, but she was working very hard. And having gone through that experience very early on, I realized that I just wanted a better life for her, for my family, for myself. And the short of it is I had an opportunity to come to United States and get an education. And that's what I did. I came here at 19. I came to LA for a summer and then went to New York and I was there for 14 years.
Oh my goodness.
And the way it started, I literally didn't speak any English, like maybe like literally just, hi, my name is Sabina, and not even how are you? But I didn't have a backup. I knew that there was literally no one who would be like, oh, let me take you, let me teach you how this works. Let me teach you how to get a green card or citizenship. Let me teach you how to get a job or speak English. So all of those things, it took time to learn. It took time to, I did some research. Since I was a little girl, I was one of those girls that were making clothes for little dolls, for my dolls. So I wanted to be a designer and I did some research. I found the best school in New York City, Fashion Institute of Technology, or FIT. And I did part-time in the beginning because I also had to support myself. That's all I could afford. I literally was taking 1.5 credit per semester, which is crazy because if you take 1.5 credit per semester, I don't know, you maybe graduate by 62 years old or so. That's literally all I could afford. I was supporting myself through school. I was working as a waitress. I was working as a cashier. I was working as selling makeup. But those are the things. And as time went by, I learned more English. I learned more skills. I was able to, be a full-time student. And I had a great opportunity now with the skills that I had going through school to work for global and amazing designers as Vera Wang, Oscar de la Renta, Carolina Herrera, and it was an amazing, amazing experience. And I'm so grateful for everything I learned, for the people that I met. I actually worked in Oscar de la Renta when he was still alive, so I got to meet him, and I'm so grateful. And yeah, that's how it went for my. And I graduated from FIT doing my undergrad in fashion design.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm telling you, you are just such an inspiration. Like, I read your bio, but just hearing you tell it in person, I'm like, oh my goodness, because there's so many people out there that have what they feel like is this gut feeling, and they just kind of set on it because of fear, of worry of what if it doesn't work, or, how do I do it? What are the steps? And you didn't have it all figured out. You just said, this is what I feel like I need to do. This is what I want to do. And you took the steps to do it. You just started, and you went along the way and figured it out as you went. So and you were so successful at it. And that is such an inspiration for me. And anybody, I believe, if you're starting a business, if you're thinking about starting a business, if you're thinking about, like, you moving over to America to fulfill your dreams and stuff. My mother, I actually, my father had a tragic accident. He didn't pass, but I can relate to you on that. I saw what it meant to have your, that income gone. And if my mother didn't have a education, and if she didn't have a job, we would have been left broke. So that, it was a horrible thing, but you turned it to good, for value, to teach you a lesson, to be like, I don't want to be dependent on anybody else for my success but myself.
Absolutely.
And that is so inspiring, Sabina. And thank you for sharing that. So when you got over here, I want to ask you this question, because I think that we all kind of are here at some point in our life. When you got over, I mean, obviously there was a little bit of nervousness of the unknown, or I don't know if it was fear or whatever you want to call it. What gave you the push to be like, I'm going to put all this to bed, and I'm just going to get over here and do this and do something big with my life?
Mm-hmm.
What was your final?
With you looking back, I'm like, I don't know how I did it, and I don't know if I would be able to do it again. But at that time, I had no fear. And I don't know if it has something to do with my, faith in God, and knowing that, you are there for me. And my prayer right before I left the United States, I said, you know what? I kind of trust you. I know you, and I just need you to send me the people that you want me to meet. And people made a difference in my life. It was incredible. And it was, good kind of like sign for me to know, you know what, I see you, like, it's you literally doing things. And obviously for myself, I was taking action. I wasn't sitting there and thinking, like, oh, let me see how it goes, let me see if the right people come in. I honestly, what I did was, maybe it will help someone, but like, what helped me, I went to the library. I enrolled into the library. I literally Googled search, and I'm like, okay, what's the closest? I didn't have a car. I didn't know how to. And in New York, if you have to have that train ticket or a bus ticket where you swipe. I didn't even know how to do that. So and I didn't speak English, but I spoke Korean. Back in the days, until high school, I was translating for Korean missionaries that came to Kazakhstan. So that's how I could read and write Korean. That's how I was able to find my first apartment. So I'm literally in that apartment now. And I'm like, okay, let me find the library. I walked to the library, and what I did was, I love to read. So I took, I remember the book Poor Dad, Rich Dad. And the reason why I did that, because I read it in Russian. So I was like, okay, let me read the book that I know, but in English. So what I did was, then I learned to take trains and everything. So on the train, I would write down either words or phrases from the book and memorize it. And, kind of like, I found a job in the city. And when you work in the city, you have to understand that there is no one who speaks Russian. People come in and they speak English. And that was kind of like, it helped me a lot to be able to communicate, to be able to learn, reading books, learning, putting the time, investing the time and effort in, kind of like taking myself from point 0 to A, B, C, and so on. That helped a lot. And once I was able to enroll into fashion school, FIT, you kind of get immersed, and you have no choice but to no, what's up, like, what's going on, what, you have to kind of level up every time. And there were times when I was in the room and things were uncomfortable, where I was like, literally, what are you saying? Like, what's going on? Like, things like that happened. And I think it's fine. I didn't look at it at that time, which I'm so grateful. Like, I didn't look at it at that time as, I'm so upset. I can't understand. You know what? Like, let me go back to my, I don't know, like little apartment or little box. No, I was like, you know what? Let me go Google it. Like, what is it that she said? And, it's like little simple examples, but you kind of can take it and apply it to everything. So it's the way you look at things, your perception, and then taking action, I would say.
Absolutely. And just being persistent. And if it doesn't work, keep going. I think so many people get so close and they're just like, oh, it's not going to work. I'm
For
like,
sure.
oh, you're so close. Keep pushing, which is why we're doing this podcast, to encourage people just to keep going, just to start. It doesn't have to be all figured out at first. Just start somewhere, right? And, trust God and your gut and your instincts. And there's so much resources out there today for us to get. I mean, we're so blessed with YouTube and how-to videos, and we can pretty much teach ourselves to do anything we want if we really put
literally everything. Yeah,
everything's there. Yeah. So that's awesome. So you hit a little bit about, your background and then your education. And I mean, how was it working with I mean, some of the biggest designers out there? I mean, you were at music videos. Was it your clothing and music videos? Was I seeing that as well?
Yes, I'll get there. So how was it working for them? Like, you have to understand that it's a luxury brands and things that they do. My background not only was fashion design, but specifically special occasion. So that everything that has to do with red carpet gowns, wedding gowns. So it's very intricate laces, very expensive chiffons and things. For those, just like an inside kind of story, for those companies like Oscar de la Renta, Carolina Herrera, Vera Wang, the fabrics that you work with, supply comes from Italy. So it's like the luxurious, the best, the most expensive fabrics. So like I said, I learned so much. I was involved, in a kind of like a behind the scenes on runways in New York City, which was amazing. And where it led me, I think the knowledge and experience, it led me to, by the time I was graduating my undergrad, I was like, okay, so now I know this, I have all the skills. I kind of felt like I have it in my hands. I was like, let me do something very unique. So one thing to understand about fashion school, in the end of the school, when you're graduating, it's like the last runway. It's, if you've seen Project Runway,
yeah,
exactly like that. Wow. So it's basically designers and then you create your last collection where you put your all efforts and creativity and everything that you know. And then there is the big judgment that you either get picked or not, which for the young designer, it could basically, in a sense, break or make your career. So it's like, okay, I have to do something, as everybody's thinking, something unique, something that's never ever been done. So I've done a lot of research and I came across 3D printing. And at that time, that was 2014 when I was graduating my undergrad. There was literally maybe less than 5 people, designers, that been doing 3D printing in fashion. Like, now it's a lot more. Now it's a lot more known. People 3D print, kids, parents buy them 3D printers and kind of like print toys and stuff. At that time, it wasn't like that. So I was like, okay, let me combine something literally hard as plastic with something like chiffon and laces. So it's like completely, 2 different worlds. And I think, and so the short of it is, I created my collection. I got chosen for the last runway, of course. So then the runway happened, and it was, first of all, it was first in history of Fashion School of Technology 3D printed dress. That was mine. So if you ever hear about FIT, just so you know, it was mine.
It's yours.
Yes. So it went down the runway. You wouldn't believe, it created so much attention. Like, the next day, I literally woke up famous. All the publicities, and you have to understand, in 2014, there was social media, but it was not as it is today. It was more publications, printed, whatever online or printed, it was all about FIT and this Sabina Saga who did this dress. And I don't like, the articles were like, we don't know how they do it, but every time they just like blow our minds. So basically that's what it was. It was amazing. And that was the point for me, kind of like a confirmation of, you know what, I'm freaking good. I'm a good designer. I am good at getting this attention. So one of the things also, maybe for anyone who is listening, because I know that there's a lot of women who's, you know, building that personal brand. One thing that was my intention, building this dress, it was crazy. Like, it was absolutely creative and everything. But my thought behind, one of the thoughts, besides being creative and cool and everything, I was like, let me make it something that people are not expecting. So like something that not only will get attention and good grade and, you know, the runway, but something that will almost change people's minds, like something very unexpected. And it worked. Like, that was the cool confirmation for me. I was like, you know what? Like, it was nothing that people expected. It was not one of those wedding gowns and, you know, and everything. It was the gown, but it was freaking cool and something unexpected. So the shock effect, it worked.
That's
And
amazing.
I was like, you know what? Let me do it again. So I built the whole collection. And that was the point where I was like, you know what? I'm strong enough. I opened my own company. I named it under myself, Sabina Saga New York. And at that time, you wouldn't believe how much attention I was getting. PR firms, freaking all the runways, all of a sudden wanted me there because, see, for the industry, what it meant was that there was something almost revolutionary where you put hard freaking plastic with something that's intricate as wedding gown and you put it together. So now I had the whole collection and the ball started to roll. Like, I started from this one dress and it just kind of got bigger and bigger. And I got invited to New York Fashion Week, but now not as behind the scenes, now as Sabina Saga with my own collection. Paris Fashion Week, Milan, Lexus Germany reached out to me. They were like, you know what? We are about cutting edge technology. Now we want to put this 3D printing into, you know, cars or whatever. Let us collaborate with designer like you. Wow. So they actually, Lexus put behind this whole freaking fashion show, and it was next level. Like, one of the best, I would say. I participated. So I worked with Lexus Germany, and to answer your questions, that's how I was invited to work with British Council in London. We were working on a modern Shakespeare movie, and one of my looks, my 3D dress, was part of that, you know, music video. I collaborated through that experience with a lot of amazing, talented people, movies, ballet, modern ballet in New York, Shakespeare movie in in London, British Council, with other singers, dancers, movies, fashion shows. It was amazing.
That is awesome. Oh, wow. And just all because you said yes to your yes. I mean, really. And think about how many lives that you changed. And I know I'm not getting ahead of the gun here, because I mean, I know there's a lot between there, but if you get a chance to meet Sabina, this is for the viewers that are watching, you're probably one of the most genuine people I've ever met at an event before. And it's just something. The first time I met you, I believe we were at Bradley's event in Vegas.
I remember.
And, I saw you there, and I just watched how you carried yourself, and I was like, this woman is just so genuine, so sweet, and she carries herself so well as a professional. And I was like, she has a story. I don't know what her story is, but I got to know this woman. She has got a story to tell, and I would love to have her on my podcast. And then life played out, and we met again this past October in Nashville, or not October, but this past summer in Nashville. So I mean, you've got it. You've got the grit and the courage that it takes to get out there and to do something with your life, and to do not only just live average, but to live above average and do things that most people don't even think about, because you believe in yourself enough and you have the courage in yourself enough. And there's so many people out there that just need to hear that. and hearing it from you and your story is just truly a blessing. And we thank you for sharing that. But so after the 3D print, I mean, I would say your life just completely, like you said, took off in every direction possible. So what were you thinking after you went over there, after you went to Lexus and the music videos, Vera Wang, all these designers? What was your next step? Like, because some people, after they make it, they're like, well, now what do I do? Now I've made it, like, what's my next step? What was your next process of thinking after that?
So for me, it was actually almost like, well, first of all, I was like, how do I be the best? Because see, fashion industry is very competitive, as every other industry, but I feel like it's so competitive and unforgiving in terms of like everything. Every day there is something that new comes out. There is not something that new, some design.
Right.
There is so many talented people. So I was like, you know what? I want to be the best at what I do. So the next step for me was I decided to go and get my master's degree. So I researched and I went to UAL, which is like literally #1 school in the world for design, like in general. A lot of famous people went there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in London. I went to London and I got my master's degree at the same time, continuing to do everything that I told you, the fashion shows, building my brand, growing my brand. And I think that was the peak of my career at that time. Like everybody, wanted to work with me. And everybody thought that there is an army working for me, when literally it was just me by myself. Obviously, to print 3D, my scale was huge. And at that time, there was only a few companies that did that. So I, yes, collaborated with companies for them to print it for me. But in terms of like the company running, it was like literally me. So the truth is, what I kind of started to realize as time went by, I'm thinking, wait a second, I am really good at what I do. I'm a really good designer. I am really creative. I built this huge brand. But the challenge was, it was very, very difficult to make money. And the reason why was because I was competing next to huge corporations like Lululemon, Alo Yoga. They have such a huge buying power. They buying, I don't know, thousands of units at once, versus me, like a single digits, person kind of thing.
Right.
So at that time, I didn't know what the disconnect was. I had the creative thing, I had the brand, I had this whole, on social media, it looked amazing. It looked like all the red carpets, gowns, models. I'm here in Paris for breakfast, in Milan for dinner. Like it was amazing on social media. And honestly, you probably see it all the time. It happens a lot to people where on social media, they show you what they want you to see.
Right.
And it looks amazing. But the reality was, I was like, wait a second, it's hard for me to pay my bills. Like, honestly, I am doing all this cool stuff, and it takes resources, it takes time, traveling and building. Like I myself paid for every little piece, whether it's the 3D printer or 3D printing dress, and I bought 3D printers as well, or it would be Swarovski crystals or whatever it is. It was me paying for it with my own resources. So I was like, wait, it's something, there's a disconnect. So that's when I realized that I didn't have a right business plan.
Right.
I didn't know how to raise capital. And the short of it is, what I've been doing for the past few years, I've been working with my husband, who is an entrepreneur himself, who built and sold businesses, who is focused on helping people to do the same thing.
Right.
And what I do now, I having kind of like the best of both worlds. I do have the creative side and my whole experience of, the amazing brand, working with other people, with other huge global designers. And this second component of business, how to actually have a business plan, how to have a strategy, how to not only have the beautiful brand and the image and the presence on social media, but most importantly, what I didn't know then that I know now is how to monetize it. And this is what I do now. I help other women, other entrepreneurs, whether it's real estate, whether it's, I don't know, hair extensions, whatever it is that you do. I help you to build everything from personal brand, and that's image, how you look, how you carry yourself, how you look on social media, your website. I don't know if people use still business cards. Some clients actually come to me and they're like, I need a business card. So that, or a lot of people are on social media now. So all of that, I help them to look. All of that has to be consistent with your brand, consistent with who you are, consistent with the audience that you're trying to attract, the audience that in the end with the goal to be able to monetize it. Not only, you understand, right? Not only have that, beautiful image and PR and everything. No, from the beginning to the end.
My
So
goodness. That
that's
is
what.
so, that right there is worth it. Is worth it all, because if you think about it, it is very easy to get on there and be like, oh, I'm here, I'm traveling the world. But who's paying your bills? Are you providing your family that life? Because I had to do a self-evaluation. Like, I'm here, I'm everywhere, it looks glamorous, but I'm not there with my family, and the money's not there. So you gotta, is the money, you're chasing your dreams, which is great, but you got to make sure it's providing when you're gone. I mean, because you're away from your family, you're away from your friends, your loved ones. At some point, you have to monetize. You have to do it.
Absolutely. And I honestly, I would tell you that I personally see that a lot too. Unfortunately, that there is a lot of women and people in general that have this kind of, not to say fake, but social media presence. Again, they let you see what they want to see. But personal brand these days, it's not a secret. It's freaking super powerful. It's so powerful where, for example, look at Rock, look at Kylie Jenner, look at Kim Kardashian. It's that one single person behind the personal brand, where now you can put it on anything, put it on lingerie, put it on makeup, put it on alcohol, put it on freaking movie. And you having that amazing personal brand can make a lot of money. Absolutely. Millions for them, it's billions, I don't know, but like it's important not only to have that image, but to be able to monetize it.
Yes, absolutely. That right there, I took some stuff away from that. So that even I'm interviewing, I'm taking away notes. I've got my little notepad, like trying not to let you see me write notes here as you're talking here, but that's amazing. So let's move into today. You mentioned your husband and what you guys are doing. Can you kind of, and obviously what you're doing with the creative piece and stuff, but kind of go into a little bit more on that, like about you and Rob. And did you meet when you were in New York, or how did you guys meet?
Actually, yes. That's a funny story too.
Uh-huh.
At that time, I literally, like 1 month prior to meeting him, I was able to purchase my first property in New York, and I was like, oh my God, now this is something I had, one of those things like a map of your dreams. So the apartment was there, my education was there and everything. So I was like doing check marks for myself. I'm like, okay, education, master's degree, now let me work for my apartment. I put a down payment for the car of my dreams. At that time, I wanted the G-Wagon. So I'm waiting for the car, and all of a sudden I meet him. But my thought process was, I'm like, I'm gonna now fully immerse myself into building my brand. I was getting ready to make a next move, to come out with the new collection. I was looking for the right partners in terms of factories and everything. I was looking overseas and maybe some in New York. And I'm thinking, I'm just gonna go full force and focus on my career, kind of take it to the next level. And then I met Robert, and things change in kind of like an amazing way. Shortly after, we kind of started dating. At first, long distance, because yes, we met in New York, to answer your question, but he was on a business trip in New York, on Fox Business doing, commentary.
Right.
From New York Stock Exchange. So that's how we met. And he asked for my phone number. I didn't give it to him. I gave him my email. He emailed me, and then he came back to New York and we had dinner, and we developed feelings, and kind of story went on where we did some long distance, and then I moved to LA. We got engaged, and shortly after we got married last October of 2021. So it's almost a year.
Happy anniversary soon. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So that's the short, the
Yeah.
short of it. Yeah.
That's so awesome. So what made you, I'm saying this because there's a lot of people that are thinking about finding that power couple. I mean, that is something that I won't settle for. I know that is on my list of things. Like the person I marry is going to be, of course I've been married before, but the person that I marry is going to be that power couple. So it is so important that you have that intentional congruence with each other, right? You both have to have the same mission and goals. What made you decide? Because a lot of people are kind of scared to do this, but what made you decide that you guys were going to work in business together? What was that deciding factor in that?
I think for both of us, what we realized from the very early on, and keep in mind that at that time I worked for myself and I was also hired for a company for a New York company based in New York, um, doing creative stuff.
Right.
So I don't think that was the thought from the beginning, but for both of us, what we realized early on that we actually had both of like the best of both worlds.
Oh, yeah.
I had everything creative, like literally I can look at things, and the way he says it, you can look at things and make it better. Like I never thought it's such a powerful tool, because to me it comes naturally. Part of it is maybe some of it you're born with, some of it my extensive background in my education, but like I literally, it's easy for me to look at things and know like how to place it in the camera, in the photo shoot, in whatever, on the model, out of the model, whatever the whole set is, I can make it work really well and make it very appealing. So that's kind of like my, strength that I bring, creative vision, like building all that.
Yeah.
And his thing was business for 20 plus years. That was his background. And, we kind of realized, he's like, you know what? I do have all this business, but again, today, the creative part is very, very, very important. And I feel like as years go by, with social media presence, with digital marketing, it's becoming more and more so.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, at some point we were like, okay, now we're launching this new business and the business after, and we're working on some other project. Why don't we just put these two forces together? And it's going really great. I feel like there's always something I'm still learning from him every day. And the same goes for him. He takes this creative and he's kind of amazed by what I do.
That's awesome. That is great. And both of you guys are just such powerhouses in your level of expertise. I mean, it's amazing. I've heard Rob speak multiple times, and the way he speaks, like he makes it so understandable, so people can, if you don't have any knowledge of finance, you can just really kind of pick up real quick. It's very relatable, very understandable, and is with you as well. So you guys are doing some big things together. Well, Sabina, I know your time is very valuable, and I just thank you so much for coming on this podcast with us today and talking. Can you let anybody know that would like to know more information about how they could work with you, how they can find you, and where they can follow you at as well?
Absolutely. I think the easiest way would be social media. Instagram, it's Sabina Saga. That was my last name before I got married. Now it's Luna. Saga became my middle name, but Sabina Saga on Instagram. And you can DM me, you can email me. Contact me any way you want. And I'm here to help you with whatever questions. Come to me, and with everything that I can, I would help you. Absolutely. Megan, thank you so much for having me. I also want to say that you're one of the most genuine people I've ever met. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great, great honor. And I admire you for being freaking amazing mom, freaking amazing boss, amazing freaking human, and just like businesswoman and everything. I admire you, and I can't wait to see you win even more, to grow even more, and to hear your story of success.
Thank you so much. That means so much. Thank you. Thank you again. Guys, stay tuned. We will have this another episode dropping soon, but this one you definitely want to share. So be sure to contact her on how to follow her on Instagram. And thank you again, Sabina, for joining us today. Thank you.
I'm unstoppable, unstoppable.